welcome to the second meeting. Appreciate you guys being here. And after this morning service, I believe I've got like 8 other submissions. I'm going to have to catalog them. And a couple of you said, you told us you were going to send us an email, and I didn't. So I responded just a few minutes ago that I was too busy out breaking the law to send emails, and that's an inside joke. But anyway, but let me just walk you through what we're going to do today, and then need your input on the next couple of weeks. So today is October 3rd, and the purpose of this meeting is to walk through the 9 different screenings. Remember from last time we had 9 different categories, and we're just going to talk through them. It can be 3 minutes on each one. We could leave in 30 minutes, or it could be real long if y'all want to stay longer. I mean, but I'm horrible at guessing time, as I just proved up there. I'm horrible at it.
It usually means at least twice if he guesses.
Like if I tell her I'm going to be at the church for an hour, she says I'll see you in a couple of hours. So, but in all seriousness, we're not going to do the hard work here today, but what we're going to do is we're going to make decisions about what matters most to us as a committee. And then you're going to get all of the names. Once the last name could be submitted as late as next Sunday. And I will send all of them to you. And our son's calling, rotten timing. But so we've got Zach in prison, and we've got Nick in basic training, and we get like momentary calls from each of them, and we missed Nick yesterday, now I'm missing Zach, but that's the way it goes. So tell him I love him. But so what we will do, you guys, is make our template and finalize it today, and then once all of the church names, the potential church names are submitted, I want each of you to work through all of them on your own, not as a committee. And that's because I don't want it to feel like, well, you know, Keith said this, or Oliver said this, or, you know, I want it to really be what you feel and what you think, okay? And I think that's best. And then we can go one of 2 ways, but once it's all of those are turned in, I imagine that I'll just simply compile it, put in the data, and give you guys the results. And then after that, we might need to meet again. I mean, we probably will need to meet one more time. I said only 2 times. In any event, let me pull up the areas, the 9 different areas, and talk through them and get your input. So as I'm trying to do 2 things at once, here's what I'd like to do. My preference would be for us to decide between 1 being the lowest or 5 being the highest for each one of these 9 categories. And we just talk about how important is that one thing to us. If it's not important, it's a 1. If it's sort of in the middle, that'd be a 3. If it's very important, then that would be a 5. And I don't think, and I just really want to say this, there's not a right or wrong to it. It is what you guys sense is the right way, but it could really matter. Like if one of the categories is weighted at 5, and then another one is weighted at 1, and then you go through and you score each of the church names, it really could make a difference the way it adds up. So let's see, where did I put it? it. I apologize, I wanted it to be ready to pull up immediately.
Yeah, so you sound under the weather a bit. Are you okay?
I'm fine, yeah, I've just
Your
been
voice is
talking a
going-
lot.
Okay.
I've been talking too much. Here we go. Okay, so first, let me read the 9 different categories, and just to remind you, these are them. Okay, first was local, geographic, landmark. You guys all know what that means. I mean, that'd be, Denny's restaurant. The sign holding the big man holding a donut or whatever. The mountain, the valley, the river, whatever might be a local thing. The next one is other church screen. I guess we should say other church screening. And that just means, is there already a church named this? How important is that to us? Like, maybe there's not a church named that in Buckeye, but there might be in Surprise, or there might be in Phoenix, Greater Phoenix, or there might be in the state or in the nation. How much do we give credit to that? The next one was Bible connection. Does the name have a direct connection to the Bible? That's not necessarily critical in my mind. I mean, I don't feel like it must, but if it does, of course, that's wonderful. Spirituality, does it some way communicate the importance of seeking after God? Trendy, is it in keeping with current trends? Well, that's a bonus, but it's not necessarily, none of these are like critical that we must have this, but just simply whatever you guys feel. The last 4 categories. Demographics, does it connect with the demographic of Buckeye? And just reminding you guys, the median age in Buckeye is 31.2. Young couples drive in and out of Phoenix to work. So does this name connect with them somehow? The next one is length. How long is the name? Does it roll off the tongue easily? Our goal is 1 or 2 syllables, or at the most 3. I think actually we said at the most 4 is how we said that. But there again, it might just be a name that just rolls off the tongue real easily.
Pastor, I thought about that
Uh-huh.
as you were mentioning that. I think at Christ Church of the Valley, it's a long name, but because of the acronym CCV, it's a short name.
Mhm.
So it's possible we could have a long name with an acronym that's short.
It's true, yeah, that's a good point. And by the way, I heard one point, this is probably a couple of years ago, at that time, the logo CCV is the most recognized logo in the state of Arizona. I mean, everybody sees that and they know it.
I saw
So-
some car out there with things on the windshield, sun protected, CCV on my parking lot.
Oh, really? Are you serious? How about that? And then the last one is like. Do I personally like this name? And so, for each one of these 9 categories, the purpose of this meeting then is to decide, do we rank that really important? Give it a 5. Somewhere in the middle, a 3. It's just not that important to us. A 1. I don't know really how to start other than just dive in. And it might be different with another group, but this is our group, this is our church. We're trying to discern it. So, let me just say it this way. First, what I'd like to do is just ask you, is there one of them that you go, man, that's super important to me? Listen to them again. Geography, other church screening, or other churches name that, Bible connection, spirituality, trendy, demographic, length, language, and like. Is there any one of them that any of you would just jump out and say, that's pretty important to me?
Length, I think is very important.
Which one?
Length.
Length. I agree. I think it's very important. So, say more about that. Like, why is it important?
Well, the reason being is we're in a society today where things, social media, everything's quick. People remember things. Like you said, CCV is the most recognized logo in the state of Arizona, And if we have a name, like you mentioned in the last meeting, First Church or the Resurrected, Firstborn, people forget it.
Yeah,
But it can be spiritual, but as long as it's short, precise to the point.
And along those lines, what I find about the name CCV, and I'm not sure why we're using them as an example, but they're very, very successful. But CCV, I've had multiple conversations with people where it sort of goes like this: CVC or what is it? CCV? What, you know the one, and and I'll do the same thing, Christ Valley, Christ Church in the Valley. But they know, whether they know it or not, they know that is connected to that church. And so, all right, so.
Well, the two locations right now, one in South Phoenix and one in North Phoenix.
Well, actually, they've got 41 campuses across the valley. There's one in Verado, brand new, beautiful, nice building in Verado. Man, so Pastor Don, who is retired now, he was the lead guy for CCV for years. I saw him interviewed one time in Phoenix magazine, a magazine about Phoenix, I should say. And he said, the question was, what would you be doing if you were not pastor of a church? And he said, I'd be a basketball coach. I'm like, that's what I would love to do. But anyway, he made a statement one time, we've been in all of your Assemblies of God churches. He was at a Assemblies of God ministers meeting. He said, we've been in all of them. Like, really? Oh yeah, we come and we kind of walk in the back door and we see what you guys do. And we're like, oh, that was really good. And then some things we go, we wouldn't do it that way, but we're always learning that way. And so, rank it 1 to 5. How important is it? So that
1 is good or higher.
5 it would be better, and 1 is 5. Okay. What do you think? Was that
I say trendy, because
Trendy.
everything's trending right now.
Okay. And say more about that.
We're like the younger generations and the young couples, and that's who we need to reach out to more, because I think they're lost.
Yeah.
So I think we need to pull them in with something trendy.
So.
Yeah.
And I would rate that like a 4. I wouldn't.
No.
Okay. Agreed? Anybody with comments about that?
I agree to a certain extent.
Okay.
Maybe it's just the kind of person I am, but I feel like Bible connection is more important
Okay.
than just do.
Okay.
But it depends on the kind of demographic you're trying to reel in, what she
Yeah.
says. If you wanna get like people my age or younger,
Mm-hmm.
most people my age aren't like me. They like trendy stuff, so.
It's
Yeah, and I
hard
tend to
feel
agree
that
with it
both
too.
ways it does. But I I would love to see the young, and they're like, I just see them and they're gone, they're lost.
Yeah.
And I would love to see them come in and then see something like, oh, that's interesting, let me go see what that's about.
Right, that would be awesome. That's my heart is I would sacrifice my personal preferences if young
For the
people
kids.
came. It would be so
for
awesome.
Teenagers, for
you know.
kids, for young adults, or single mothers, or single fathers,
Yeah, right.
or grandparents that have younger kids or teenagers or whatever.
Right. And by the way, and your comment is really good, because I think for all of us in this room, of course the Bible is super, super important to us. That's, we're not saying that's not important. What we're saying is, how are we gonna get people, what's the best possible way to introduce them to the Lord and to the Bible?
Mm-hmm.
So, you said 4 on trending? Am I right? Is that what you thought?
Let's go 3, 4, only because,
No, I agree with you. I'm with you with the 4.
Yeah, but that's, yeah.
I think 4.
Okay, let's keep it.
For me, I think maybe even higher than 4. Maybe 4.5, but I don't.
It's up to you, Pastor. I said
Well,
4,
no,
if you wanna make it 4.5, it's okay.
No, I'm just echoing to you that I do think you're thinking correct. I think you guys are thinking correctly about this. So then let's talk about the Bible. Of course, the Bible connection.
Yeah.
So let's approach it this way: that it's important to have a connection to the Bible, but in the name. But how important is that? So, would we choose to be named something that people go, oh, I associate that with the Bible? If it meant that some people might say, I'm not really, I think I know what they're all about and I'm not really interested in going to that. Would, you know?
I think it's a fine. I'm gonna tell you why.
So
What good is short or trendy if it doesn't point to Christ? For, again, with Christ Church of the Valley, we know it's a church. I mean, I can have a trendy name, but if you don't even know that's a church.
Right.
Like when we started the coffee ministry, we called it Valley Hope.
Uh-huh.
And Grace told me one day, she goes, you know, people don't know if that's a hospital or a church or what. And I thought, Valley Hope does sound like a hospital, actually. And I
I
thought,
would say a residential.
In a sense, I agree with that, cause, was it a couple years ago, when Heather and I went to the refinery
Uh-huh.
up there, right off the 303.
Yeah.
And some people come and talk to us, with us, and one of them was the worship pastor, cause we were letting the kids play out in the grassy area.
Mm-hmm.
And people were coming because they thought it was a brewery.
They really?
They thought it was a
because the
brewery,
refinery
because the
is-
refinery, you kinda, somehow it is associated to a lot of.
Was that serious? Nobody really
Because
thought
it's
No,
a
I'm-
Christian-
I'm-
thinking-
No, I'm serious as far as,
Christian
because
name.
I'm like the refinery, and I'm like,
I never
it
heard of
doesn't
As far as-
look like a
no, it doesn't, as
brewery
far
at
as, but
all.
they were coming to town us as far as that people were coming because they thought it was a brewery
Okay,
and whatnot, and I'm like,
So it's the Steelers.
that's interesting.
I never got that when I see that name, I always think Christ, you know, the work of the Holy Spirit.
yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about
Which
it as far as,
Well, it does have a Bible connection. I'm like a refiner's fire. What is that? You know, what is that verse? But interesting. So, one of the men that's helping us as a consultant is a man named Lee Coates. He's an acquaintance of Stephanie's from years ago when she was at Eastside Assembly of God in Tucson, Arizona. But he's at a Christian church, and that's what the refinery is. That's their denomination in Las Vegas. And he's part of a consultation group called Growmentum. And they go all around the nation talking with churches that are considering doing multi-site. That's his thing. And he consulted on this church, the refinery. And yes, he's like, oh, I know all about your area and all that. So we've had a really interesting phone call. Incidentally, one other man that we're trying to get on board is David Katina. Oliver knows the Katinas. You guys know the Christian band, the Katinas? They're incredible. And yeah, so really, really amazing. So, all right, I'm getting off track though. That's really interesting information. So we're saying it is important. What value do you give that?
What topic is it?
Oh, we're on Bible connection.
I say five.
I'm fine.
Because here's the thing, if they wanna come based on the church, that's great, and if they say, well, it's a church, you can't water down Christ to get people.
Absolutely. And I agree with this, that part of our discussion has been in some of the sessions that there are really large churches that are unhealthy, and there are really small churches that are very healthy. In addition to that, there are really small churches that are very dysfunctional, and there are really large churches that are really healthy. So that doesn't have anything to do with it. What we do is we look at a plant and we say it's flourishing, it's alive, it has vegetation, you know, it's healthy. Whether it's big or little, that's not the point. The point is it healthy? But one trend among very large churches that tend to not be as healthy is that they don't have a strong identity with Christ, and people go and they sort of morph into this big thing, and it's cool and it's trendy, but there's not a real challenge for life change and really a commitment to Christ. So
It's like
we never-
refuge place.
Mhm.
You know, people would come in there, oh yeah, you know, but then it was nothing,
Okay.
you know, it was just like, it was coming.
So we really want that substance, yeah, all right, so that's good. So we said 5 for that category. So listen, we've covered Bible connection, trendy, and length. Those are the three we've talked about. We've scored 2 5s and 1 4. So I'm hoping that they're not all 5s and all 4s, or maybe they are. I don't know. I kind of think it's better.
Pick good topics.
Yeah.
Spirituality can come with Bible connection.
So let's cover that one next. To me, if it was just me, I would rate spirituality higher than even Bible connection, and here's why. I know I want people to know the Bible. I want them to know Christ. I want every person let's say it this way. The humans with skin, we only accept them. Everybody else gets rejected. But any humans that have skin, we want them. And they might have a background of, maybe they're from Islam, maybe they've been involved with Buddhism, or there will be a heavy influx of Asian people moving to our area, for instance. Taoism, Shintoism, all kinds of things. So if somebody wants to go on a journey to know more about God, I'd like them to look at our church and go, well, maybe I could find out about God there. And so to me, that is super important. And you know how much I give my life for the Bible. I love the Bible. So, but I guess I'm just trying to get that angle. What are your thoughts about
What's an
about
example of a name that would be spiritual but not biblical, or biblical not spiritual?
You always come up with hard questions. I know. Well, I'm hoping that as we go through this list of names, that you'll go, well, that's directly connected to the Bible.
I mean, Christ is the head of the church. It's got to have Christ in there. Spiritual and Bible, I think, are synonymous.
So maybe, I wonder if we just need one category and not.
It's synonymous.
I kind of feel that way too. Like, instead of saying the same thing twice.
Right.
Any thoughts on that? No, we could do that. We could combine Bible connection and spirituality. Those are. I mean, I can't think of a name to fit the example. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a popular name a few years back was The Journey. I remember people saying The Journey. That gave this picture of, I'm trying to get somewhere, I'm searching for something. But it doesn't necessarily connect to the Bible, although you could. I mean, you could find.
I think the rock me on the journey every time I hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, every time it's
Yeah,
worse.
that's true. The band. All right, I'm gonna make those one category. How's that? Is everybody okay with that? I think that makes sense. So it does that. So what about demographics? How important are demographics? How important is it that someone who's 31 years old with 2.4 kids, driving in and out of Phoenix, living in Verrado? That's a lot of the couples that live in that area that we're targeting. That's what they do. I can't afford to live in Phoenix, but I could get a home out here. Not all of them, many of them are retired. There's like some $1 million homes back in there too.
But you got the senior community there too.
Yeah.
Victory.
True. How important is demographics? Scale of 1 to 5. And we're only talking about the name. We're not talking about vision or the way we do ministry. We're just talking about they see the name and they go, oh, that appeals to me. It's a bad idea to do this after a sermon.
I think it was 2.5, Pastor.
It's like, oh, I'm tired of thinking.
I think about 2.5.
2.5?
I don't see it.
It's not as important to you.
Yeah.
Can you say a little more, convince us why it's 2.5?
Well, I've never seen a church name that had a demographic in it that I can think of.
Okay.
I just haven't. I can't think of one.
You made a believer of.
Targeting like one age limit though,
Right.
because, your church is multiple ages from, your elderly all the way down to
It's a really good point.
kids and whatnot. Obviously, we need people like that, but you need your elders to teach your youngest, and but you're almost like targeting just one age group.
I'm thinking of, Don Steiger was, I don't know if he still is the superintendent of Rocky Mountain District, I've kinda lost track. But at one point, he pastored Radiant Church in Colorado Springs for 22 years. Has a great story about a lady came to my office one day, she said, Pastor, I've been coming here a long time, and I gotta be honest, I don't necessarily like everything about our church. And he said, Madam, I've been pastoring the church for 22 years, and I don't necessarily like everything about our church either. But he said that over 22 years, to your point, Darren, in the early days, he had 3 distinct generations that he was speaking to. But in the last part of that 22 years, he said there's clearly 5 different generation age groups that I'm targeting. And it's challenging to speak to all 5 of them in a way that's relevant. So I think that's good. We put demographic at 2.5. That says it's not nearly as important as these other things, but it wouldn't rule out something either, if something did fit that category. What about language? Okay, so this one, just to remind you, language meaning, could this name translate to Spanish? Could it translate to Chinese? I don't know who we might have someday. Could it translate to any dialects from Africa? You know, I've been meeting Africans, real Africans from the continent who are moving here. That's going to be part of our theme. So how important is that? I don't think it's important.
I give it a 1.
I'd say like a 1 because,
Yeah,
unless you're gonna, like what we did with, Christian Connection Center, you know, rent out. Of course, obviously, when I drove by here the first time when we moved out here, and I seen the Spanish sign, I didn't want to come here because obviously I don't speak Spanish, so I thought it was a Spanish congregation. Not knowing that it was, you know, still Buckeye First Assembly, but they
It
were
was
renting
leased,
out,
yeah.
you know, as far as that and whatnot. So, but I mean, it's kind of important to translate it if you're gonna start doing something like that.
That was a mistake that I always regretted. I shouldn't have. We should have done the sign differently. We needed to have a sign for them. I agree with that, but yeah, I got multiple comments. I thought you guys were a Spanish church. No, we're actually, we're not. So I guess
I think that's important if you're reaching that demographic only, like you said, up on 303 where they're gonna build that big Asian community.
right.
You
Yeah.
would need something like that. But if we're trying to reach a demographic that's well blended, I think it's not as important.
I agree. I think if it does translate like Christian Connection Center in Spanish, but in English. In Spanish, how would they say it? Centro Conexión. But anyway, it fit. It was nice that it just fit, you know. So, Conexión Cristiano Central, or I don't know.
I know the English are bad English, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I wouldn't be able to help you with that.
So it's bonus if it does work out. So there's only a few other categories. Local geographic landmark. So this would be like, I was joking about this, the big sign with the man holding the donut. I was only joking. This would be like Timberline Church in Colorado. You picture the tree line up at 12,000 feet. River Valley Church or something that's right beside the river down there, you know. One of our names was White Tanks Mountains right there, you know. Something like that. I don't want to assume, but I see a trend going. To me, I think that would be like an added bonus if it just works out, but I wouldn't put a whole lot of emphasis on that unless you guys convince me, like if you feel differently. Like, what are your thoughts?
I agree, I don't think it should.
Yeah.
You're right. What's unique though is I was thinking about the map. Every church that we planted will be at the base of this mountain out here. And
Wow.
so, and I know that it's not as important, but I thought that's pretty interesting that
Well,
every church is
yeah.
gonna be at the base of this mountain. White Tanks is a weird name for a mountain, but
It is. I don't know where the name came
even
from.
if it was like like Mountain Springs or something, it had nothing to do with the name, not that I'm choosing, big name, but I'm just saying, it's kinda interesting that it's surrounding that mountain, Buckeye.
I am curious about those kinds of things. For instance, I did a lot of research trying to figure out what would be the name of our valley. Like Rainbow Valley, I know where Rainbow Valley is in my mind. And then I can't even say the name of it. Is it pronounced Harkivale?
Harquahala.
How is it?
Harquahala.
Harquahala. I see that sometimes and I'm like, what is Harquahala? Like, where is it defined?
Desert.
And I kept thinking that we would find something somewhere saying, Buckeye Valley but I don't find anything about that anywhere. But
I was doing some research just on things like that. Did you guys know there's a waterfall in White Tanks Mountain?
Yeah.
I never knew that. After I
didn't know
read it,
that.
there's a waterfall up there.
There's a couple of them.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Take a trail and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what is
It's
the
like,
name
it's
of
on
the
a
waterfall?
Rainbow
trail
Falls, I
up
think.
there, it's nice.
Is it called Rainbow Falls or?
It's called waterfall or.
There's a couple of them
I don't
down
think
in
it has
there.
a name, it's very small.
Yeah.
I've been up there a bunch of times.
Rainbow Falls?
I thought it was, I saw a rainbow, but I could be wrong in it, but it's like about
That's-
Glendale, isn't it? Going towards the White Tanks, yeah.
That's
Where did they get the name
interesting.
Tonopah?
What now?
Where did they get the name Tonopah?
Oh, yeah. I mean, is that a Native American Indian name?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Like, okay, so we lived on Kokopaw Street. We used to live very close to Jackie, right around, and that was, by the way, that was so nice to live close to Jackie. She's like the best neighbor you'll ever have. But, I thought, Kokopaw, that sounds so nice. And then, but what did we find out it was the name meant?
Well, it's Native American, and then anytime if we had an address to tell someone, especially on the phone, and they'd say, what? What is
Yeah.
that? Can you
Okay.
spell that?
I remember now. So I don't remember what it means, but I remember reading it spelled out with phonetic notes on it, and it said it's a Native American word, and it's actually pronounced Quapai. Like,
I know it's a tribe, I don't know what it
but I know what I was thinking about Waxahachie. We lived in Waxahachie, Texas. Waxahachie means cow chip. That's what it means. It literally means that. So it's like Waxahachie. But anyway,
That was
Or
the
the
same
name Yuma? Where did you get the name Yuma?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
goodness. Okay, so what
Well, I was
was
just saying on the cruise in Alaska, the one town, I'm trying to remember which one, but they said the same way you would say it, and it just meant wind.
Oh,
was
yeah.
one of the points.
It was Skagway.
Skagway.
And they told us the Native American way of pronunciating it, the Eskimos would say "Shua," and it was the sound of the wind.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I gotta go on a cruise now.
Buckeye is founded by people coming from Ohio.
Yeah, I think we should probably name it Ohio State University. I'm pretty
So
sure.
That's fine with me.
Oh, no, don't you start.
Sydney was first.
Yeah, it
They
was Sydney's
changed
and
it.
then they changed it to Buckeye from the Ohio guy.
Yeah.
I wish they would've kept it Sydney, that sounds
I
cool.
like
Yeah.
Sydney.
Yeah,
Hey, there you go,
I
Sydney
moved out here to
Church.
Buckeye because
We
my
can go
family's from
back
Ohio.
to it.
They're Buckeyes.
I've got a niece named Sydney.
Okay.
Okay, so we said I had language at 1 and then local geographic. We didn't assign it anything. Do you guys want to? 2, okay.
Because basically you're targeting just one age group. Am I right?
And then I'm not trying to push us just in the meeting, but my battery's at 8%. So I want to save our notes. So other church screening. Is there another church named this in the city? So I know that it's individual for each name. So you're going to be working through the list and you're going to go, oh, we already have one of those. Maybe you know or maybe you don't. I would suggest as you go through to have the internet accessible, type that name in and just see what's around. You might be surprised what's right around us. To me, it wouldn't be a big deal if there's one in Ohio named that, unless that was a nationally known ministry and everybody goes, oh, they're just trying to copy so-and-so or whatever. Then it would become
Like
Uh,
we're to name it Potter's House after a known ministry.
Right,
And it
yeah,
has
some,
different
exactly.
connotations too, cause what's that ministry about?
Mhm.
We got Summit, I mean, the one that just opened up here, but then Jeremy's, and Katie's church is Summit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that might be, I don't know if you guys know this, but Don Dixon, down the street, it's now called the Passion Church. It's Assembly God Church. I don't know if they're meeting at the gym yet or not. They were meeting at Buckeye Elementary School. But it used to be Summit of Hope. And they changed it, and I think it was for that very reason, because, there's already a Summit Church that
River
everybody.
Passion Church has an AD church.
In Casa Grande.
Casa Grande,
Yeah,
Romeo,
Yep.
Neil's church.
Yeah, we hung out with him last week at the man camp. He's an awesome pastor. I really love his heart. He was the one that was leading the services. He'd always,
Oh, that
you know,
guy.
the first guy. Yeah,
Fire right there.
And
he had
was
the
in
fire.
Lowest of and partial of the certified and license that I went through. So that's all I
Okay,
know.
cool. All right, so to me, I don't know how to score that. Like the others, if it's not that important, it's a 1. If it's important, it's a 5. But on this one, it depends on the name itself. Like if you look at it and you go, well, that's already something else, then it needs to score low.
I think it's important if it's an AG church or if it's a national church. You know, but
Okay.
if it's like, if there's one in Casa Grande, Tucson, or Mesa, you know.
That's
that-
right.
Those far enough
and-
away,
and we're-
so-
And it's
Right.
just a small church, we could have the same name, cause we're
Yeah.
Assembly of God. But,
Okay.
if it's like a national church, I think it's important not to, like, you wouldn't wanna call it Dream City.
No, that'd be
Yeah.
Dream City Church. Well, the difficulty I'm having with this is how to assign it. Because if you assign it 1, then that means it's not that important. If you assign it 5, it's very important.
Put it in the
But
middle.
it really but it doesn't depend on that. That's
How
what I'm
about a
saying.
4?
Like if it, I guess it would work out. Never mind. So somewhere in 3, 3.5.
Yeah.
I think, what if we did this? What if we possibly put that category aside after we pick a name, say, is there another one, you know?
Oh,
You know what I'm
okay.
saying? After
Make it a
say-
separate kind of a deal.
Right, say now that we've got maybe 3 names, let's look to see if they're actually, someone has that website already.
I like that a lot. Okay, does everybody follow that? Because,
That would help make the decision.
yeah, because it really shouldn't matter about whether it's
Right.
part of our name choice or not. It's
But
just a last
important
step.
After the fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that would
Okay.
narrow it down too.
So, so I'm gonna have to make some adjustments to this, but I'm making notes in a way that I can understand it, because me, myself, and we had a committee meeting and we need to understand this.
Franklin said be
All
the-
3 of us
be
are
the
in
Lord and the
agreement.
Holy Spirit agreed to. I'm like. I look at him like, really? Can't use the Lord in this?
Okay, so there's one other category, and to me, this is pretty important. Like, do I personally like this name? I think that's important. I mean, I think that there should be something where we go, I just like that one. And each of us, I know it's gonna be different, but we're gonna look at that list and we're gonna say, yeah, not that one, no. Oh, I like that, you know? And I really just believe that the Holy Spirit will work through all of our decision making, you know? Now, am I thinking the right way of it? Should it be about that or should it not be? What are your thoughts? What do you think, Stephanie Dion, Roberts Howard? Use the middle name. He pulled the middle name.
Wrong couch.
What was the question again?
How important is it that as individuals that we just like it? I mean, to you?
Oh, well, I think that's part of it. I think we ought to like
Big
it.
part of it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So you want to put a value on it? Between 1 and 5, where does it land for you?
I'd say 4.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
Let me ask you this, even if we were to mark everything 5 on here, once we go through the names, each of us are gonna put a different number on it as
Right.
well,
Well,
right?
yeah.
So that could, even if something's a 4 or a 5, He could have very little boats or a whole bunch of boats, right?
Right?
So it's,
So
it's
let
important, but
me,
not that important, right?
yeah, let me tell you where we've landed. So here's what I did. For the category called other church, I just gave it a value of 0. That means we're gonna deal with it after the fact. It doesn't even play into this discussion. And then I marked all the other ones, either 2, 5, 1, 4, 2.5 was demographic. So here's the way it breaks down. The geographic category gets 8%, Bible gets 20%. Spirituality, no, Bible and spirituality is one category that I need to do the same thing here. No, just a second, I need to change that as well as combining them. So Bible and spirituality gets 21%, geographic gets 9%, trendy is at 17%, demographic is 11%, length of the name is 21%, language is only 4%, and like is 17%. So you can see that all those add up to 100%. So no, like you just said, Oliver, we're gonna go through each name and rank it on our own, and you'll get a piece of paper with 1 through 100, here's the name, and you just circle, you just go through and circle what number you think, and turn it back in. But each one of us will score them differently, but this kind of tells you, if you were to look at the graph, I mean, you know, here's where the geographic landmark is, here's Bible, here's trendy, here's demographic, here's the length of the name, here's the language. Each one is more valuable or less valuable depending on how you guys just ranked
That's a good way to do it.
it. Is anybody uncomfortable with anything we decided and it's just gonna keep you awake tonight?
I don't think anything can keep me awake tonight.
None?
Maybe Frank.
Oh.
This morning, you know.
Where do we submit
I
names
love
to?
taking care of
So I've got a notes of big list of names.
Okay, so listen, well, let me just show you on my phone. So if you go to the app, no, that's my Bible app, sorry, no, what, BFA. If you go to BFA app, and if you look down on the bottom, it says help, and you've got all these volunteer cleaning schedule, greeter schedule, but right at the top it says suggest a new church name.
Okay.
If you touch that, it takes you to this and you just fill it out.
Okay.
And you can do as many as you want. It should let you do multiple. If it doesn't, it means I've got it set wrong. But it just says potential church name and it walks you through. And so I think from what I've gathered today, and you heard me, I just told him it'll be open for the next 7 days. So we're at probably about 20 names right now.
Wow.
Yeah, some were turned in this morning. I'll read you, here's some emails that were turned in already. There's some good ones. Destiny Church, Pathways, Purpose Finders Church, Desert Spring.
I just said
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if
There's
you.
one
I tried to go to the comments and I didn't let me.
Desert
Just
Springs.
I pressed enter.
Yeah,
and it
that's
took me
true.
back.
There.
Oh.
See, now that's an example of what. Okay, so what he just said is important. So Desert Springs is all the way in Chandler. That doesn't really impact us. Only that it is an AG church and it's very well known and very respected. So we're not going to be able to do that. I mean, we just can't because we don't be laughed at all the meetings like, oh, they copied so and so.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. Okay, then.
I forgot to put AG after mine.
Oh, you don't have to, it's fine. So the Holy Place, 3 wooden crosses, Community Church of Buckeye. So that's 8 of them right there, and then there were a couple of them
I
that,
got like 20, just I don't know how to download them. Can I read them to you?
yeah, please, yeah.
I got Mountain View, Mountain Crest, Family Life Center, Encompass, because it's surrounding the mountains.
Oh,
Restoration Church, New Life Church, Valley Hope, Spirit and Life, Harvest Valley, Valley Harvest, Desert Vista, Desert Oasis, Faith Foundation, Living Hope, Living Waters, Living Word, Mountain Springs, Desert Wind, and Mount Vista.
Are you gonna submit all of them? I
I
hope.
don't know how.
Okay, so if you wanna just text me, I can make sure they get in there, and what we'll do is we'll take the final list and put them all in alphabetical order and send you them, and
I still don't have the app, I can't get the app as well.
it won't let you.
No, I can't find the app, but I can go to the website, but I don't know where the thing is on the website.
So if you go to the home page of the website and scroll down, it says touch right here to get the app.
Okay, so I'm at the website.
The only reason I remembered it Desert Springs is because something that Griffin just put on Facebook last night.
Oh, what did you put on?
There was something that him and Beth
Oh,
were
I see.
doing, talking about his Ironman thing that
Apple
he's doing.
Store. Is that it?
Yep, that's it, and then
That's what I couldn't find.
yeah. I
It
wish
doesn't
it,
look like it exactly.
I know, but that's the website developer, I wish it had our logo, it will,
Mhm.
once you download it, it will have our logo and all that, but
Oh,
it's,
gotcha.
It's
It's a-
That's why I
confusing a
never
little
found it.
bit.
yeah.
Okay.
And I should probably give them a call, because I don't think it was that way in the beginning, I think that people searched Buckeye First Assembly and they
Yeah.
found our
Maybe
logo.
something changed.
We're gonna change the name anyway, so.
There you go, so, okay, you guys, is there
Alright.
anything else that you wanted to include in today's discussion before we go? Is there anything that, I don't know, that you thought of, like after last time we didn't talk about this or anything like that? Or? So, we'll leave the name solicitation open until next Sunday, and then next Sunday I'll send you the list, and I'm hoping that all of you are doing what Oliver just did. I mean, I would love it. It's making more work for all of us, but I'd love as many names as possible. It sounds overwhelming, but it won't be, because you'll get a page that you can just go through and rank it, and it'll get easier. And then we tabulate all of that, spit it in there, and we'll get our results. And if you guys, I think you said you are not available to go with your schedule, probably to go out in front of stores is not gonna happen,
Yeah,
probably.
probably not.
And that's okay. Would any of you be able to do that, like for 1 hour, go stand with a clipboard, hey, would you take a quick survey? Okay, so that'll be after next Sunday, immediately, maybe throughout that next week, probably the following Saturday or something, or Friday, just when it's the busiest time. And it'll be real, I mean, all we need to do is just find one of the stores that will allow us. We need to tell them, hey, is it all right if we're in the parking lot for 1 hour? We promise to be very courteous and not push anybody. Some of them have their regulations and they just say no. And
That's
so,
all I can say is no.
yeah, so,
I wouldn't think as far as if we're not selling or.
I'd go to
competing.
Chick-fil-A.
Someone's selling in the parking lot, what's that?
yeah.
Chick-fil-A.
Like
find
fries,
Chick-fil-A.
and we're not selling.
I get some free food.
I found out you can't just give puppies away. I did find that.
They're awesome.
They don't like
They
that.
don't like
Okay, I
that.
was like, 'cause they won't say no, sure.
All right, well, listen, thanks for coming, and, Jackie, would you mind to close with prayer? And we'll all just agree
She's
with
freezing
you,
too.
just say a prayer.
Put all this stuff on.
Yeah,
Father God, we thank you for this time together that we've had to discuss the progress of how we have plans that we have for our ministry and the names. Pray that you get the exact right name for us.
Yes.
Will be selected, Father. And we all pray over it and believe that this is the one you want us to have.
Yes.
And thank you for being with all of us as we leave and protect us, keep us all safe from all harm and danger. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
amen. All right, thanks so much, everybody, and,
So what's gonna be like the process of actually changing?
so we'll,